on. Likewise. Afternoon. Now calling to order the April 8th, 2025 meeting of the Elkhart Redevelopment Commission. As a reminder to the public, the Redevelopment Commission accepts in-person public comment and virtual public comment related to specific agenda items or during privilege of the floor. To participate virtually, please join us via WebEx, excuse me, and be sure you are visible and audible and that your name is displayed. Okay.
That approved minutes.
Dang, just skip. Approve the minutes, I skipped something. May I have a motion, please, approving the March 11, 2025 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Now, do we have any bids to open?
We have no bids.
Thank you. Sorry. You had to get up twice.
You'll be all right.
Next item, Residential Housing Development Program Public Hearing.
Good afternoon, Mike Huber, Development Services Director, City of Elkhart. As you're aware, we are working with a developer for a new 86-unit single-family housing development in the County Road 13, County Road, or Genewood Drive, Hankey Drive area of the city. This would be a residential TIF. Part of the process for establishing a new residential TIF is to have a public hearing related to the housing program, the housing development program. The housing development program was completed. It was made available for public comment, is made available for public comment. We did have a meeting with the school system as is required by the statute as well. As noted, the project includes 86 lots proposed to be built new single-family homes. Our potential involvement with the project is to partner with the developer, creating a residential TIF where we would pledge 80% of the revenues of the TIF to help support installation of the infrastructure, the sewer, the water, and the roads. The developers are here in the room as well. We anticipate, based on their cost estimates, their investment in just the infrastructure components would be about $7 million. The TIF should generate about $3 to $3.3 million at 80% of the increment upon full build out. That's kind of the framework of the development agreement. We're happy to open the public hearing component of the meeting.
Have any comments, excuse me, from the floor? Any comments from the commissioners or questions? I don't think there's anything we
No, I
need to do
think
except
if
close.
nobody's going to participate, you can just close the public hearing. Unless there's someone online that has something.
There being no comment or questions, we will now close the public hearing. Boulder Run Declaratory Resolution.
So this is step one in creating the new residential TIF, is the declaratory resolution, creating the housing program plan, and starting the process of creating the new allocation area related to the Boulder Run TIF district.
So you need a motion to adopt the resolution as presented, which designates and declares the Boulder Run Economic Development Area, creates the area, approves an economic development area residential housing development program and plan, and establishes the allocation areas for purpose of tax increment financing. All is set forth in the resolution.
May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution approved. Garrison Fraser, revised development agreement.
So included in the packet was was an amended and revised development agreement. What we're asking this afternoon is for the Redevelopment Commission to review and approve this. Generally in concept, we have provided this to the Garrison Fraser folks. This was developed after we had multiple copies and versions back and forth, incorporating some final comments. However, we are awaiting some final review from Garrison Fraser's funding partners, Millhouse, their legal counsel. They're not going to be able to get us their comments until later this week. We anticipate those, if any, to be very minor potential suggestions. Our recommendation is that we authorize the Redevelopment Commission president to execute unless there are some changes that would be deemed by the president, the council for the Redevelopment Commission and staff as being more substantial than minor. We would then propose that we bring it back to a special meeting and let the entire Redevelopment Commission act upon that. Just a couple highlights of the development agreement. The identified project funding gap is about $10 million. The city will be using a combination of LEI and developer purchase TIF bonds and a forgivable loan of existing cash to fill that gap. We're waiting for additional clarity from the IEDC on the amount of and timing of the LEI award. That's part of what's been kind of a little bit of a holdup on finalizing some of these components, and also in terms of laying out the actual bonding strategy and starting to execute on the bonding components. The lack of clarity impacts the timing of the project. There's an emphasis from the administration and from the city and the developer on maintaining the approval schedule and timeline and allowing us to get to a late fall construction groundbreaking start. The developer once we approve this development agreement, whether it's today, whether it's at a future meeting, the developer will start to incur real design costs prior to our ability to create and finalize all of the necessary approvals, which should be wrapped up by September. As a result, we've indicated that we would be willing to reimburse the developer for real design costs incorporated or incurred if for some reason we don't get all of the approvals we need to get to make the project happen. Again, we should have final feedback from them next week and be able to make the final decision.
So you should have a motion to approve the sale of the real estate described in the development agreement at a not to exceed price of $750 and approving the terms and conditions of the agreement as attached, authorizing the president and in her absence the vice president to approve any revisions she deems appropriate that are consistent with the intent of the parties, authorizing the execution of the agreement.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay. I thought this would all be in place. I'm a little nervous about approving this at all the parts. Staff have the right to rescind. How much time would a special meeting?
Gary, the timeline for establishing a special meeting, we need a week.
Yes, I can't remember for sure. I was thinking it might just be like 48 hours in advance.
I mean, theoretically, getting everybody's schedules around, probably a week's notice to get a new meeting scheduled.
And again, at this point, what you're doing is approving the basic form under. We can come back at a special meeting if we have to have one.
You said the magic words.
Yep.
Any questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Are you going to go back to item C? Am I looking at an old agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, we did award that. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Award East Windsor Avenue, Cassopolis Street pedestrian access and lighting design and engineering project bid.
Good afternoon. On March 11th, the Redevelopment Commission received quotes for the project from DHA and JPR. DHA was determined to be the lowest responsive quote that we received. So we would like to grant them a contract to begin working on the project.
So you would need a motion to award the contract to Danch, Harner and Associates, Inc. at a not-to-exceed fee of $66,800. Approve the final contract forms attached, authorize their execution, and appropriate $66,800 from the Cassopolis Corridor Economic Development Area Allocation Area Special Fund to cover the cost of the services.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 420 South Second Street electrical repair invoice.
So I believe it was in February or early March, a storm had damaged the electrical service on the back of 420 South Second Street. And this is simply to cover the invoice from Herman and Getz for the electrical work that they had done on the project.
So you need a motion to approve the electrical repairs performed at the property by Herman and Getz at a cost of $2,092.08 and appropriating that sum from the downtown Elkhart area allocation area number 1 special fund.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 230 Potawatomi use permission.
So I communicated with Adam briefly on this. Effectively, the owner of the property across the street from 230 Potawatomi approached the city and asked if they could have access to that to build a garden. They agreed to take care of and maintain the property, which means it comes off our list. And so this is a use agreement to allow them the access and use of that for that purpose.
So you need a motion to approve the request for access to the property designated on the agreement, approve the form of agreement, authorize its execution for the purpose of having a garden at 230 Potawatomi Drive.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Baker Tilly service agreements.
So there were, I think, 3 service agreements included in the packet. These are to employ Baker Tilly for financial services and bond services related to both with the Boulder Run project, with the potential development of an infrastructure bond in the Consolidated South to work on both South Main Street and infrastructure improvements at Woodland Crossing, and then also the South Main Street, Freight Street projects.
So you need a motion to approve the employment of Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors LLC to provide the services described in the 3 agreements, approve the form and content of the agreements and all attachments thereto, all to be paid in accordance with the fee arrangements specified in the agreements from bond proceeds.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mike Keene lease agreement extension.
Mike Keene is one of the partners of Neighborhood Evolutions, who we've been working with on the Woodland Crossing project. He's been in our employment, I think, for the last 6 months or so as a primary leasing agent in the main contact for that as we're trying to lease out spaces at Woodland Crossing. His agreement is ending. He would like a 6-month extension, but he has notified us that he doesn't want to go any longer than 6 months. He's got plenty of other things he's got to do with his own buildings and his own projects in South Bend. So we'll be working with other collaborators and trying to identify an appropriate new leasing agent who can come in, work with Mike over the course of these last 6 months, get a feel for what we're trying to do, and then kind of take his space moving forward. But this request is just to extend the lease agreement as it's been written. And Mike effectively only gets compensated when he signs a new tenant. So I don't know that we've even spent, I mean, he's been working with us. I don't know that we've had an actual new tenant sign in yet. So I don't know that he's actually gotten any dollars from us, but effectively that's what we're trying to do here.
So you need a motion to ratify and approve the extension of the listing contract for an additional 6-month term to expire October 31, 2025, and approving the addendum submitted.
I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Woodland Crossing Survey Services from JPR.
So this is a proposal and contract for services with JPR. One of the things that, as we've gone through the master site planning process, we've noted or noticed is there seems to be a lack of clarity on some of the previous survey documents that we had at the center as to the exact specific locations of all of the utilities, whether it's sewer, whether it's water, whether it's electric or gas. There are some easements that are noted, and we'd just like to get JPR under contract to help us clean all of that up. There's a component of this that has a third-party private utility component where they'll go out, they'll contact third-party utilities, they'll make sure everything's clearly delineated so that it can be all incorporated into this. I believe there'll be some work with our Public Works, our sewer and water team to maybe run some cameras through some of the sewer and water lines along with a little GPS so that we know exactly where all those lines are. As we start to look at building new utilities and building new buildings, we need to make sure we're not hitting any buried utilities. So this kind of helps us do that larger scale 311 before you dig, call kind of thing and map it all out. Clean up, and then the platting process will help us clean up any of those easements that are there that shouldn't be, or create easements that should be there that aren't there now. Additionally, the platting process will help us negotiate a little bit of a land swap with Hart City and Goodwill, where we'll give them some of the Lot 5 area to provide parking for the new Hart City space, which will kind of front on the south side of their building. we'll take some of the far western part of their parking lot, which is far away from the Goodwill door, and use that as opportunity for us to look for new housing creation. So
you need a motion to approve the employment of Jones Petrie Rafinsky to provide the services as set forth in the proposal and appropriating $34,000 from the consolidated TIF to pay for those services.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, resolution approved. Lifeline Youth Ministries Access Agreement.
So Lifeline reached out to us. They're having a fairly large event at their hub facility, which is south of us, a little bit off of Prairie on the other side of Hively. And they needed some additional parking for their event. So they asked if they could have utilization of some of our parking, which we seem to have plenty of capacity to accommodate that. And they're going to run some shuttles back and forth. And so we'll finalize and negotiate the specific areas of the parking lot. But this is a use agreement, an access agreement that basically holds the city harmless and allows them access to use the parking lot.
So you would need a motion to approve the request of Lifeline to access the property as set forth in the attached agreement and approve the form and content of that agreement.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Benson, May, right?
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Woodland Crossing CAM amended budget for 2025.
So February, we actually had a stretch there where we had some nice freezing rain and some inclement weather that resulted in us having to do a considerable amount of salting and on multiple rotations to make sure we were staying ahead of the ice and keep it safe for anybody who was visiting Woodland Crossing. That was not accounted for in that level of salt and removal was not accounted for in the original budget. So what we're asking for is an amendment to the CAM budget for 2025, which you all saw and approved, to allow us to bring in, now that we know what the actual costs were, to allow us to bring in a little bit of a bump in that budget to accommodate that extra salt that needed to be done.
You need a motion to approve the amended 2025 CAM budget for Woodland Crossing.
So moved.
Oh, thank you.
Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Woodland Crossing RFQ for Big Lots asbestos removal. So
these next two relate to the continued redevelopment of the Big Lots space as we near completion of signing a lease with our first new tenant to use part of this space. We need to get it ready for them. And so we need to get a couple quotes, and we're just asking you to authorize the city staff to release a couple requests for quotes to allow us to both remediate and remove the asbestos and as well as do the interior demolition. On the interior demolition, we had an update meeting this afternoon, and I think we should be they're putting some final touches on the bid specs for the demolition, and we should be in a position to release both of these as soon as we get your approval.
So you should have a motion to authorize the release of requests for quotes for the Big Lots asbestos removal as well as the demolition work.
may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Staff updates?
So at yesterday and last night's council meeting, yesterday's meeting, the Plan Commission, I just wanted to report, both the Plan Commission and the council last night adopted and affirmed the Redevelopment Commission's declaratory resolutions related to Allocation Area 7 and Allocation Area 8, and the amendment to the downtown and Cassopolis street plans to create the flexibility to do structured and surface parking improvements in those two districts. So just want to make sure you're all aware that we got those approved last night. I think that's all the updates I have.
Pardon?
I think that's all the updates I have.
Oh, okay. Okay, next item of business is approval of the Morgan Boyne invoice.
The amount of, for current work, $25,990.41.
May I have a motion, please, to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Or public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll have your TIP report. Okay, now is the time for anyone who has questions concerning items before redevelopment that were not necessarily on the agenda today. Do we have any public comment? There being none, I think we're going to play it safe right now. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Should have lived on the edge.